The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps. The cabin link check.
3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the R.I.F.T Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. How is everybody out there today? I am Ed Odell.
And I am Ryan.
You're watching What's Going Down. This is the show that gives you current events, issues, and situations. So get your coffee, get your tea, whatever it might be. Come on and join us. Let's talk about modern times. Ryan, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm actually drinking decaf coffee this morning because I woke up, had coffee, and then I had to go get some stuff for Angie. So I ended up getting a limeade from the drugstore down the street. And I'm like, well, I got to have my coffee, but I can't drink regular coffee. So I'm going to go ahead and do the decaf.
I got you. I
this
got
morning.
my 1 cup of coffee that I'm allowed to have. So I'm going ahead and sipping that with you guys and kind of relaxing. Still getting over a little bit of this funk, man. Still trying to do it. Hey, Michelle. Hello, and thank you. And you guys, if you're out there watching, just say hi. Drop in chat. If you got questions or anything, just let us know. Hey, Jan. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning.
Well,
we're just here letting you guys know what's been going on in the world of the weird, I guess.
Yeah, actually, we're a week early. But that's because there's so much that's happened from the time we aired to the time of this show. So it's really exciting. I pulled some things from the past. And there's some things that I think people should hear about. So we got some interesting stuff on my end. Ryan, what you got for everybody?
I got 2 UFO articles.
Excellent. Yeah, it seems to be ufology seems to be the big
Yeah.
news here in the last year or so. Excellent. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show. Good morning. Look, a lot of travelers popping in. I love this. I love this.
Got the coffee. Good. Join us.
That's
Little
right.
coffee talk.
A little coffee talk. Tea for me. It's early. Well, you do that tea. We understand.
Yeah.
I should be drinking tea, but I'm still sticking coffee. I got to find some way to feel regular and normal.
I
Yeah.
have my tea later on tonight, or my tea. I drink my tea when it's on my other show. I'll drink my melatonin tea to help me relax. Now I'm drinking tea. I'm drinking the coffee to wake me up. Although I feel a little too awake right now because I'm drinking my decaf.
How do you like that melatonin tea? I've been wondering if I should start that myself.
It works. I mean, I like it. I drink that. I know it's only kind of tea I drink, and I think it definitely relaxes you. But I'll drink the tea, and then I'll take melatonin, the actual dissolvable melatonin, and I'll take some Ambien.
Okay.
Help me fall asleep. But
Do
it
you
definitely helps me focus when I'm doing the show. And that's really what I use it for, not to actually fall asleep, because that doesn't really do much for me.
I was about to say, do you think the melatonin is actually something that is worth trying for those people who can't sleep well or not getting a full night's sleep, or do you feel that's just hype?
I think it works for some people, but I think if you use it a lot all the time, then you get an immunity to it, and it takes more than just that to help you fall asleep.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Chris says, I like jasmine tea too, but it's in doses. Well, that makes sense. Jan finally got my herbs growing. Good for tea tonight. Oh, there it is.
Very good, Jan. Good job.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So,
Tea talk.
so we got a few things going on. I think we're going to start with a something from the military aspect that is in modern time that goes all the way back to pre-Vietnam. And this is for a majority of the people who are paranormal researchers, investigators. You'll find this very interesting. So I wanted to share this particular video, and then we'll jump into Ryan's stories, because this kind of works right with it, because right after Ryan's stories, we got another one. It's called Queen City. It's from U.S. working on captured UFOs. So I got one to follow up with him too. So I want you guys to check this out real quick. Let's bring this up. Dun 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 dun. Let me make sure I get this thing set right this time. Nope, I'm not doing it right. There we go. All right. So you guys, you could say this is from Metaphysical. This is actually 3 months ago, but this is a returning video that we had for the show back then. But right now, we're going to bring it up because we can get a chance to play it then. So I'm going to play 43 seconds of it, but 43 seconds is enough. Trust me, of what you get out of this. You can go, all of these are on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube. You're going to look Metaphysical up. And then you're going to look up for night vision goggles, saw predator demon in Vietnam. So check this out, you guys.
During the Vietnam War, soldiers were given special night vision goggles. But there was more to it. These goggles were said to see a broader color spectrum not visible before. The story goes that soldiers started freaking out or even losing their minds because, horrifyingly, the goggles were able to see demons. After that, night vision goggles were supposedly modified to not show those creatures. But what's the real story? Is this just an urban legend, a leak about something that actually happened, or a disinformation campaign about advanced military technology? Do special ops use such equipment today? And is there any data we can find about the mysterious happenings in the jungle?
So
I've heard that about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you and I talked about on this very show the quantum goggles or quantum vision set, and they had to change it, and that professor went missing, did he not? here we are with the military saying they developed a set of goggles. They used them in the war. There was a lot of craziness that took on. They had to change the goggles over, so supposedly they wouldn't see the demons. Interesting concept. And
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it did happen because,
yeah,
all the technology we have, the government has that we don't even know about. I can see if that happened, and they're like, okay, these guys are seeing things they're not supposed to see. We'll just scrap the whole thing. Don't tell anybody about it,
mm-hmm.
and then it gets blocked in the archive somewhere, and nobody's the wiser.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, the other thing is let's look at something here. During the Vietnam War, there was a lot of psychological issues that came out of that war. A lot of the veterans came out with a higher degree of PTSD, higher degree of shell shock. Some of them felt even disconnected from the United States when they came back home.
Mm-hmm.
Could that have been because something they experienced overseas? Now this kind of opens a little bit more of those doors.
I mean, people said, you won't believe what I saw over there. It could be more than just the death that they saw.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, we heard that through Desert Storm too. You wouldn't believe the stuff we've seen. And in fact, we both have a friend named Jeannie that talks about jinns and the whole nine. It's intriguing to me that the world that we thought we knew is starting to open up to a lot more possibilities in situations.
Yeah. So it's like the door is cracking a little bit, and a little bit of light's coming through, like a pinhole of light's coming through. And we're all just trying to put our eyes in it to see as much as we can. But
exactly. I like that. I like the way you just used that. That was a good, trying to put our eyes there, like that crack in the wall.
Yeah. Like the rift.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Boom. There you go. Hey, Keith, thanks for dropping in, brother. We appreciate you. Oh, your turn. I'm sorry. You grabbed something. I saw you flip it.
I just put Keith on there. Hang on. I'll do Chris next.
Yeah.
I think one reason they had so much trouble is because the enemy had a different mindset about religion, and the belief in karma and reincarnation had them where they thought nothing of using their children to kill the enemy.
She's right there too.
Hey, Rhonda.
Good morning, Miss Rhonda. How are you today? Thank you for joining us. All those are possibilities, man. I mean, what if you just take all of it and put it together? I mean, you had a foe that we never dealt with in that sort before. We had technology that was coming out that we never used before. We had soldiers going into the field that were not like, the past soldiers. They were a little bit different, but also, I have to add that equation in there. There was a lot of drug use during the war as well.
Mm-hmm.
In the war, not just here in the United States. I'm not talking about hippies. A lot of soldiers back then smoked a lot of pot and did a lot of opium. And, where was their mindset with that? The use of the drugs in the field. Oh, that's an interesting point.
I would be surprised if the government has this technology, but then, they use it in the field for soldiers, which is kind of not really like a closed environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be surprised if they did not try to take it back. If it was real, take it back to the States and try to have more, I guess, mentally stable people put the goggles on in a more controlled environment to see what kind of stuff they were seeing.
Yeah. Oh, the CIA had to get their hands on it.
And you put them on and say, hey, what do you see? And they say the same thing. that's different than someone like a soldier who's been dealing with, war and maybe not in the right headspace, saying they see these things. So,
Yeah.
I mean, interesting to see if there's any kind of like studies done, or if they might would make sense for them. Like, oh, the soldiers said they saw this, so let's just scrap the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a waste.
Agreed. Jan says we have to remember that they also had access to drugs. Really good ones. I do know that I have dealt with 2 cases with children whose fathers were stationed over in that area. Both had stuff attached to them that was very dark. I also lived in an area where the humag is brought over to the U.S. There you go. And they practice very different ways, if that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Again, it's like this country is developed on freedom of religion, but this is interesting. And these are valid points you just brought up, Jan.
I wonder if like some of the stuff like they were seeing were just some of the animals they weren't used to seeing because now you look up, you go on the internet, you can look up any kind of animal that's out there, but maybe they saw like monkeys or something that were bigger than they were thinking they were going to be.
Well, there were cryptics that they talked about.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, there's a few cryptics that the Vietnamese people, and not just Vietnamese, or this is going over to Laos, Cambodia, that there's a very similar cryptic, and it talks about this shadow demon, but they use another word, that chased and took people's lives. So I read about that a couple weeks ago, actually, doing a cryptic research. I want to go back and bring that up at some point. But that's a good point, Ryan. I mean, stuff they've never seen before, they're getting involved in. Psychologically, it messes with you. You feel like you're in a whole different world. Jan says we also have to remember a lot of them were drafted and didn't want to be there. Mentally, they weren't prepared. Ooh.
Yeah, there it goes. It goes. I go back to said earlier, they weren't exactly mentally stable. That it, maybe I won't depend on their, unless they were like, give the goggles to a person here on this part of the Vietnam, and then give another goggles to a person all the way on the other side, where they don't know each other.
Right.
And they're still having the same experiences. That would be more credible to me.
You got a valid point there. I like what you just said there, because even during World War II, there was a draft. So it was a draft in World War II. So it's really the environment, the situation. I mean, it is intriguing to me. And it was completely different times, almost 20 years apart, 20 to 30 years apart, and total different situation. I mean, even though we went through 2 other wars prior to that, there were all different situations. So, and the soldiers didn't have access to what they had in Vietnam either. That culture introduced our soldiers to drugs that we should not have probably been messing with in the field. To add that with the situation, I agree with you.
And what was left over in their systems when they put the goggles on?
Yeah, absolutely. And the CIA had to get their hands on it to do something else with them.
Yeah,
they've been used for something else.
This is true.
So what do you got for us this morning, brother man?
Let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and share this. Dude, share screen. All right. So my article is UFO from ABC News, actually. UFO sleuths want fewer secrets in Trump era investigations. This is from June 4th. So today, actually.
Oh, you got it.
9 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's really fresh off the vine.
He's
All right.
fresh,
So fresh.
mountain breeze.
After generations of stigma and secrecy around sightings of unidentified anomalous phenomena or UAPs, or the public calls UFOs, investigators probing hundreds of unsolved cases say the second Trump administration could be a turning point for transparency. We're trying to get as much of the raw evidence out as we can without putting our partners' equities at risk, said John Kozlowski, director of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the government-wide task force leading research into mysterious sightings. You told us the first time I'm reading this article.
It's all right.
The office has hired additional personnel, and we're investing in automated security review software that can redact the sensitive information from videos, he said, of an effort to release more currently classified material related to probes. Congress established the Resolution Office in 2022 to detect, identify, and attribute mysterious objects of interest in the air, outer space, and underwater, with special focus on mitigating potential threats to military operations and national security. More than 1,800 cases have been reviewed by the Pentagon so far, with the vast majority ultimately resolved as likely balloons, drones, debris, or animals based on a comprehensive review of available data. Kozlowski says several dozen cases remain anomalous even after rigorous analysis of evidence. They continue to review new reports of anomalies by military service members and general public every month. It's a potential problem, a national security problem, safety of flight issue, Kozlowski told ABC News. We seem to have the full support of the administration in pursuing answers. Trump vows greater transparency. President Donald Trump has famously been a UFO skeptic. It's never been my thing, I have to be honest, he told podcaster Joe Rogan in an October 2002 interview. I have never been a believer, but the president, who has full access to all government secrets as commander in chief, has also hinted on several occasions that there may be more information than has previously been revealed about alleged extraterrestrial life and unusual technological capabilities. I won't talk to you about what I know, but it is very interesting, Trump told his son, Donald Jr., in an online interview during the 2020 campaign. But Roswell's a very interesting place with a lot of people that would like to know what was going on. Since taking office a second time, Trump has vowed radical transparency across government. Last month, he ordered the release of all remaining classified files related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Some UFO enthusiasts across the political spectrum are pushing for similar release of government files related to extraterrestrial mysteries. My mouth was getting dry. When you have only certain information that's shared with the American people, that's when conspiracy theories happen. And it's in my opinion that conspiracy theories can be detrimental, said Rep. Anna Paulina Luna from Florida in April as she opened the House task force on the declassification of federal secrets. Lawmakers from both parties have proposed legislation to force government agencies to disclose more information on UAPs, but Congress has yet to pass it. Shocking. The issue is when we mix secrecy with a stigma, in that we create such a stigma and around a phenomenon that it becomes difficult, if not impossible, for agencies, for people to look at the issue seriously, said former Associate NASA Administrator Mike Gold, who served on the agency's UAP independent study team. Gold, who's now part of the UAP Disclosure Fund, an independent group of scientific and national security experts, says Congress must fund more aggressive analysis of troves of existing government data. If we study UAP, not only can we help with national security, Gold said, but even if we don't discover something exotic, what's the worst case scenario? We discover an incredible new physical phenomenon. Whistleblowers, advocates, alleged secret evidence long denied. Critics of the Pentagon, led by Kozlowski, said it has been hobbled by staffing shortfalls, bogged down by bureaucratic confusion, and mired in excessive secrecy. In recent testimony before Congress, whistleblowers insist the government is still hiding evidence of non-human intelligence, which top officials have long denied.
Okay.
Kozlowski has accelerated the release of intensive investigations, publishing unclassified resolution reports for some of the most high-profile cases, detailing the technical and intelligence analysis behind the conclusion. Our hope is to be able to triage them, identify those that have the best scientific data, the nexus with national security interests, and the true anomalies behind them, and focus our attention on those really anomalous cases, Kozlowski says. Last year, the Pentagon completed a historic review of 80 years of records related to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, concluding there is no evidence that any U.S. government investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology. That stands true, says Kozlowski.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Government and private UAP investigators say it will take substantially more data to resolve the most persistent mysteries on file. As for whether he can categorically rule out the existence of an intact spacecraft or part of a spacecraft in government possession, Kozlowski said he has not been able to corroborate any claim, but promised to push for public release of any likely findings of non-human intelligence. There's no precedent for that, obviously, but I think that we would take that up through the Secretary of Defense and allow him to make that decision. So, lots of
I call BS. It sounds like a cover up. It just sounds like more wrapping paper being put around the box of the subject. It makes no sense. It was very hypocritical based on what's been seen in the past 2 years and documented.
Mm-hmm.
And even in their own judicial system, as far as these councils that have come together. And even just several months ago when they had this disclosure meeting. Okay, we know there was a lot of back talking in that meeting. There's a lot of I don't know and I can't answer that bullshit. However, it did take place, and there was true fact that came out about things that cannot be explained, seen, or understood. So, I mean, there was a lot of in that article. I think there was a lot of hypocrisy, in my opinion.
Sounds like there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, thank you. Best way of putting it. You're exactly right. Hey, you want me to read that, or you want to read that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
you want to read it.
All right, this is Jan, and she's got a very good point here too. I would love to see them release what they see down here in New Mexico. I live next to 2 military bases. that covers hundreds of miles of desert for flights. So we call them dead areas. We don't have light pollution in those areas, and the sky is very clear. I know I've heard stories and I have seen things myself. Not to mention, NASA has a location right next to these bases, and White Sands sits between them also at the spaceport, is right down the road from me. Okay, before we go any further, I have to say this because I took a huge interest. And I'm Brian, I don't know if you saw it or not, but you did mention Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Some people are saying he's full of shit. Some people are like, I think he's a great interviewer, in my opinion. I think he's involved in the story. He has his opinion, and I feel he sticks strongly to it. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because in the last 6 weeks, he interviewed AJ. Now, for those who don't know, Ryan and I follow a YouTube episode that is called Y Files, where AJ and his friend the fish,
Oh yeah, Chucklefish.
right, talk about different subjects, and yet it could be conspiracy. Now, AJ's not a believer; he tries to debunk, and props to him for that, by all means. But to hear him on this interview, I urge you to go watch this interview. It's 2 episodes. Joe Rogan and AJ sitting down and talking about everything. And AJ is very upfront about things, which I was really surprised. Even to the point where doing his show, The Y Files, has given him anxiety to where he feels the necessity to take certain medications to calm him down. Dude, if you're taking medications and it's that scary, come on. Seriously. I mean, that's some serious stuff right there. And the one thing that he was hoping never to have happen has happened. He's being audited. And that's the one thing he said he never wanted to happen, but it has happened. So check that out, you guys. Check out Joe Rogan and AJ's interview. It was a really great one.
He does a lot of stories about government conspiracies and secrets that, if the government probably does not want him to talk about. And more power. I'm glad he does, because I enjoy the shows, but man, it's hard to go through, see all this stuff, and then not believe it. I guess, but you really have to have it happen to you to be a complete believer.
Well, he said the same thing about the old hag. The only experience he's ever had was the old hag situation. And he said it. He said exactly word for word what you just said. It's hard to believe in it if you didn't experience it.
The guest I had on last night was talking about having an old woman on top of him in his old apartment.
The old hag.
Yeah.
So
but then you think about what the world would be like, or how the world would handle it if in the article the guy said, oh yeah, we definitely have a UFO stored in Roswell. Or for us who are in our bubble, our paranormal spiritual bubble, we think, okay, well, we kind of already know it, so we can handle it. But for everybody else, the vast majority of people, how would that affect the way they see the world?
Good point. I see your point.
You do have the mass hysteria.
Some people, the masses, they say they're ready, but maybe they aren't. Maybe you're right, Ryan. Maybe the mass of society is not fully prepared and mature enough to handle the situation. Oh,
and he knows what people would use that as an excuse to riot or loot.
Anything for an excuse on certain groups of people, right? Yeah, you get a great point, Ryan.
Like we take the took a sip at the same time.
Yeah, that's all right. That's how we roll. All right. So before you go to your next story, I want to follow up behind you with a story that we had 5 weeks ago that supports kind of what you were talking about, but it goes right along with it. Again, this is from Queen City News 5 weeks ago. It is part of our UFO news information, and it talks about how the U.S. is working to capture UFOs and aliens for decades. This is interesting. This is going to be about 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
States has been secretly working to capture UFOs and aliens for nearly 8 years.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Are we?
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human.
Well, that clip is from the upcoming documentary, The Age of Disclosure. It delves into the reported efforts from the U.S. government to collect any information on aliens and their visits to our world. And joining me now, talk a little bit about it, Chief Transportation Correspondent and pilot herself, May-Kay Beeler. May-Kay, can we handle the truth first? And we're not talking about the cliche of the green little men, but it's rather something known as what he was talking about, the UAPs. Describe that.
Yeah, so UAPs, of course, are the new UFOs. It's the government's new definition. Alien or aerial phenomenon. So are we ready for the truth? When you look at the condition of the world today, I don't know. It's hard for us to handle what's going on in politics.
Might be another good distraction for everything,
might be a great,
too, right?
There is
to rally everyone.
Yeah, and Brian, there's an appetite for answers. 1.6 million people watched that trailer, and the documentary will be available soon, and a lot of information in there that we'll be watching.
So this new documentary, which talks to the various high-ranking officials,
yeah,
including you have the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, who was under President Obama, and he says the government has taken a lot of out-of-date approach here to disclosing the information about the UAPs.
Well, there are claims from 34 senior U.S. officials who say, they swear, they claim that the government has covered up non-human intelligence, aliens, for 80 years. And the folks that are coming forward now immediately will be discredited. They can have the most stellar background, highly intelligent security clearances, and they're immediately discredited. And death threats. Well, if it's not true, why bother to discredit them?
It's a whole age of misinformation, but it seems like it's a softening of letting out this information as well. But former U.S. Air Force Airman Jacob Barber, he testified last year before the lawmakers recently talked with News Nation about his work on some of these government missions, specifically something he calls the range. Take a listen.
A lot of the work we did was on what I call the range, where the U.S. government and its private partners use to test all kinds of things, weapon systems and resilience to weapon systems of certain craft. And so you see a lot of exciting things.
We have people like Barber and other officials who say the stigma around aliens and UFOs, that could be a national security threat because Americans, they're not prepared for these developments, and that could change the course of humanity right now.
Right, and he has seen things that hard for us to understand. Actually transporting UAPs or UFOs, what did he see? And military pilots know a lot about this that we don't know. I invite you to open your mind and just see what you think about this. It's kind of mind-blowing, I'll say that.
Yeah, and you hear a lot of pilots that are talking about it, commercial pilots. You're a pilot. Have you ever seen anything while you've been flying?
I hate to disappoint you. People ask me that all the time. I've been flying for 40 years, thousands of hours. I haven't seen anything. However, I know pilots who have. And I'll tell you quickly, many, many years ago, a TWA pilot told me, commercial airline pilot, that he saw a huge ship. And he asked ATC, what is that? What is that? They didn't have it on radar. And then underneath the ship he thought it was a mothership. There were about 20 UFOs that came out from that. This is not a man who would make up stories. I never forgot that. He's not with us anymore. He's passed on. But yeah.
You just gave me some little bit of chills thinking about that. And that's something
these
you see
people
in
have
the
no reason
movies
to make up the stories.
Yeah.
Astronauts have reported stuff. Yeah. If you research it, it'll open your mind. You make up your mind what's going on. It's mind-blowing.
Makes for a great talker, too.
It does.
Well, all right, May-Kay, thanks.
Well. Come on. Come on. I mean, wasn't that just a complete contradictive of what we just heard
Yeah.
from the government? That's freaking awesome. See, that's why I want to follow up with that one, Ryan. And you did that perfectly. I think we set each other up perfectly for that.
Yeah, it's and it goes down to, like, you know, don't wait for the government to tell you if something exists or not. If you think it does, or do your own research. And because, you know, unless the aliens show up and come down where we can actually see them for like the whole spaceship, you know, and government can't deny it, which they probably would deny anyways. But don't wait for the government to confirm, because they're never going to.
They're not going
They'll
to.
give bits and pieces about it, and not enough to add up.
Until
they'll give you pieces of the puzzle, but not enough to make a picture.
Puzzles are pieces and pieces of puzzles. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. So for my story, I decided to scrap my story, and I decided, because there has been solar flares lately. I watched a YouTube video talking about the effects of solar flares on a human consciousness. I'm gonna go ahead and share the video. It's like 4 minutes long. Okay.
Cool. Yep, let's do that. Chris, good point. Said if I was an alien, I would be in a science class in tech companies. Jan says the range. That's what we call our area. Well, you know, Jan, I want to talk to you more about that, because my brother had an experience down where you're at. My niece actually lives down there where you're at, and I want to cross some stories with you, because if
you want to talk about that now, or do you want
to? Yeah, I mean we can real quick, because I got only one more thing. I know my niece has explained to Robert that they have seen things down in New Mexico, and the people, and I think we've talked about this before, the people of New Mexico have even said they were talking about aliens, right? And how they keep coming around. And they were talking to them, and they're like, what do you mean aliens? Like, look, we're so tired of the people crossing. This is New Mexican saying this. We're tired of them coming over and taking our jobs, and you know, taking our livelihood away. And then they were discussing we thought you were talking about, you know, space aliens, da-da-da. Like, oh, no, they don't bother us. We see them all the time. What? It's so frequent down in New Mexico, it's like it's no big deal to see them anymore. So, I mean, Jan, how is that for you? Because I know you live in that area, and like you said, the range and the two dead locations. And yeah, it is a perfect place to test aircraft, and maybe, you know, but we also know there's a huge amount of alien or ufology activity down there, especially in the mountain ranges. Could there be bases? It's very interesting. So yeah, I mean, let's collaborate that sometime, and let's talk about it. I mean, we could do that on one of our shows. Come and talk about that. Hell, you and Keith and all y'all could talk about this. It's a great subject to talk about and collaborate more, just on a small group of people. So, Ryan, all yours, brother, man.
All right, man. Hang on. Okay, share.
There has been such a dynamic change in the sunspots. There is going to be very dynamic change in the sunspots in the coming 6 years. So whenever such changes happen in the sun or in the pattern of the way the sun functions, always it has been found phenomenal changes happen in human consciousness. But it is not a directed change, it is not a guided change. Changes will happen. Like a full moon day or a new moon day, on these days, there are certain changes happening within a human being. Most human beings do not notice it, but it is happening. If you are psychologically fragile, then you would distinctly notice it. People who are psychologically imbalanced for some reason, on that day they will find they're much more imbalanced. So it is happening. But those who are meditative will become much more meditative. Those who are gentle will become much more gentle. Those who are loving will become much more loving. Those who are insane will become much more insane. So it will set a certain pitch, but it does not direct. If you are completely at the mercy of the forces around you, you will be very volatile, up and down. The whole ocean is rising. So, you think nothing is happening in this body? Definitely it's happening. Now, the sunspots will definitely create some kind of volatile energy. But how will it work out for a human being is left to us. That's why I said, if we have a prediction and wait for it, we don't know how it'll go. If we have a plan, any volatile situation is also a possibility because things are mobile, things are more fluid. This is the time to craft things the way we want. So it is a possibility. Does it mean the possibility is only now, it's not been? No, always these things are happening at certain times. It may be a little more than other times. So in terms of nature, in terms of how the planet functions, how the natural and celestial forces function upon this planet in the coming 6 years is going to be somewhat different. Maybe somewhat is not the right word. Different in a reasonably marked way. So if we have a plan to make use of this volatile nature, if we prepare enough people who have the necessary sadhana, who have necessary focus within themselves, then definitely human consciousness could rise much more easily than other times. In that way, it is little more conducive, but one must understand, it's like this, if the wind blows, if you fly like this, if you have an airplane and if you fly into the wind, effortlessly you will fly. Suppose you're in the wrong direction, you will crash. Wind is just blowing, not to make you fly, not to make you crash, it just blows. But it's up to you whether you use it to fly or to crash. So right now, sunspots are significantly different in the coming 6 years. Because of this, there will be some marked difference in the way the planet functions. We can rise or we can crash. I have a plan to rise. Please go with me.
I'm glad you brought that up because, we usually post at the very beginning of this show.
I was looking forward to that.
Yeah,
the sun.
Yeah, I forgot what they really call her, but she's a scientist that works with solar flares and universal stuff, and we usually put her stuff out there, but she didn't have there wasn't an updated post for her. So Ryan, I'm glad you brought that out, and plus it gives a little bit more insight to other cultures talking about the situation. I love that part. I love that.
It's interesting the way he was saying, like, the wind is just there. You can use it to fly or it can make you crash, but it's not there for either one.
Mm-hmm.
The wind is just there. The solar flares, we could use the solar flares to our advantage to, increase our spirituality or have a higher consciousness, or just you could use them for something else, but they'll still be there regardless. They don't care if we use them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems, if we all work together, maybe we could reach a higher state.
Mm-hmm. But that goes back. Oh, good Lord! This goes back to the whole premise of 2030, where there will be a change. There's a timeline. We either can focus the positive or we're going to end up on the negative, where we know that supposedly there's people and powers that be that want to cause a world catastrophe, where the second timeline is a positive, where we all come together and our conscious rises, and we let go of these standard human emotions and feelings that causes all these problems to begin with. Whose Johnson's bigger than whose, and whose breasts are bigger than whose, when that all wouldn't matter anymore. I mean, it is said that if we choose the second route, then we'll all become enlightened, if you will, and we'll all doubts will be taken away. There will be no cloud. We'll know exactly the truth of everything, right down to who's doing what. All your mishaps will come to truth, and it just puts everything on an equal playing field. It depends on how you feel about it. So that was a good point you just made, Ryan. It just sent that trigger into it, because 2030, I have a feeling it's going to start turning people like 2012 did. You know, a lot of people freaked out about 2012.
Yeah.
And if they put a lot of focus into 2030, if they put the wrong focus, then, you know, they could steer us in the wrong way. I don't know. Do they want to steer us in the wrong way? Mm-hmm. Good point.
Well, yeah, depending on who they are, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, you know, if they think their way is the right way, but you know, how there's a, you know, how do we know their way is the right way? Their way is their right way in their in their eyes. But what about the people who don't believe that? Who don't believe? What happens to those people?
Right. That's the notorious, going back to when Jesus comes back. There are people that don't believe in Jesus. What's going to happen to them? You know, that's an interesting point. I mean, what's the factor there?
Yeah.
Let me read this out. Chris says, if I'm not mistaken, that lab was the one used to create the bombs they dropped in World War II, if we were talking about Area 51. Now, we're going back to what we were discussing right before that video, because Jan puts in here, I lived, come here. There we go. I lived up in Cloudcroft, which is over 9,000 feet elevation. And let me tell you, we have seen some stuff down here in Las Cruces. It's not uncommon for us to go. Oh, there's another one. Everyone has the understanding we are not very populated, and our little towns, like I said, have no light pollution, and the skies are so clear. We have observatories all over the place. Most of them government ran. Yeah. We are also closer to the equator, so the sky is clearer and closer. And then Jan goes, Chris, the bomb was here in Trinity site. Exactly. So I just want to make sure everybody's hearing what our travelers and those alike already do. So good point there, you guys. Ryan, excellent articles. That last was perfect. What do you say we end this up on a good vibration?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we got some paranormal stuff coming out to you guys. Now, this is an interesting one. We always hear about bad or crazy or weird stuff about the paranormal. Well, it's okay to hear the weird stuff, but there is one actress that's coming out and talking about her experiences. And in this, she talks about something a little bit different than what most people do. Kate Dennings was part on Hollywood News Paranormal. She's Saved by the Ghost on Jennifer Hudson's show. Let's bring that up and let you take a look at this. This is very interesting. This will be 7 minutes, so we're going to put this through. Check this out, you guys.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from Pennsylvania. In a wooded area. Oh, thank you. So is someone else here, I see.
Yeah. And I heard you grew up in like a goth type of way. What does that mean?
Oh.
What all does that entail?
I was kind of a goth child. Well, the reality is I was just like a future actress. It was very dramatic, and I would see, like, you know, I would read the old Addams Family Oh, there she is. The old Addams Family comics and watched the movies, and I became obsessed with Wednesday Addams. So as you can see, oh yeah. Yeah, that's a future actress right there.
Would I be wrong to say, was Halloween like one of your favorite holidays?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, you'd be right.
Did you always have to be as the...
I was Wednesday Addams one year, and my wonderful mother literally hand sewed me a Wednesday Addams dress that I never took off. I mean, I was really obsessed with this, and I was like, call me Wednesday, and I like slept like this and had to have braids. I just can't believe what that woman's gone through. But you know, now I play other characters for a living, so I guess it's okay. Then.
Yeah, you were preparing for your future.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And you grew up in a haunted house from the 1600s?
That's unfortunately correct, guys. I grew up in a beautifully, extremely haunted old house with a plaque on it. The Historical Society put like a sign on it. It's like a historical site. That's how old it is. And there were a lot of things that happened there. So I lived in, well, my room was in the attic. Okay. Relax, I know, it sounds bad.
In the attic.
But it wasn't like a rickety old attic. It was like a nice attic. It was just painted pink, and it had all my Hanson posters and my like Tyrese posters, and, like all my stuff. Oh. And sometimes, if I played my music too loud, my CDs would fly across the room, like off of shelves. I swear, I know it sounds so crazy, but it really happened. Things like the lights would turn on and off, you know, just all the classics.
So you were having a party with the ghosts?
They were nice. They were pretty
You didn't
nice.
mind them at all.
I was at the age where I was very open-minded. If it was now, I'd be like, we're selling the house and we're leaving. We're getting out now.
And it's
Is it true that you feel like a ghost saved your mom?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's that
Oh,
mean?
this is a very real thing. So everyone in the house had their own experiences with the haunting situation, but my mom almost had a horrible accident. We had a basement that was horrifying. It was so scary down there. And the stairs were very rickety and very like shallow. And my mom, once she tripped and fell down the stairs, but she was stopped in midair by something. Stopped completely like from hitting the floor and was like put back to standing. Swear to God, I'm having like goosebumps thinking about that. And I called her and I was like, tell me that I'm remembering this right, because I don't want to get this story wrong. She's like, yep. The only injury she had was like trying to stop herself on the wall, and she like hurt her pinky and had to put ice on it, but she was completely stopped in midair and put back by something.
Well,
Yeah.
at least I had good ghosts.
Right? Yeah.
Congratulations.
There it is.
They caught her.
They, you know, right? Here's one of those positive notes. We hear from a high-profile individual saying, you know, not only was it negative, but now we got a positive story. Didn't get pushed down. They got kept from falling. Man, that's awesome. I love that story.
Awesome.
You know?
I mean, that's good way to end the show, and positivity. You know, and it's good to know that. I mean, good to know that there are celebrities who have the same kind of issues that we do, or I guess paranormal issues and stuff. And there are lots of stories, paranormal, you know, celebrities. I don't know if people take them more seriously than because they are celebrities. Like they have, like their opinion counts more than ours does. You know, but people do like to watch those shows.
Yeah. I could not agree more, and everybody's popping in there real quick. You know, I think I think she gave herself a little bit more of a realistic one-on-one with the general public. I do like Kate too. I agree. I think she's got a great personality. She's like us, and I guess that's that connection part. So, on that one, travelers. And those like, thank y'all so much for tuning in today and hanging out with Ryan and I right here on What's Going Down. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, we want to try to continue bringing the shows, and if we could go longer, we could, because there's so many other stories that were out there, and we didn't get to half of it, as we always seem to miss.
Yeah. We've lots to talk about, but just gives us stuff to talk about next time. But
yep,
there'll be even more stuff happening. So,
yeah,
you know,
I couldn't agree more. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this up here with a little eschew of music out because we're missing a video and we don't know why.
Yeah, we're gonna get that out.
Yeah, I'm going to upload that in just a minute.
Okay.
However, to Travelers in This Light, thank you once again. Try to have a wonderful week. We thank you all so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Continue on, and let's just continue to gather the great stuff. We'll see y'all very soon. Thanks for joining What's Going Down.
Bye.